Not much of one for therapy, but it does help some people. I know this. In fact, it really turned this LA couple around. Take a listen.
Now, you know, couples therapy only works if you're both honest with each other, and I feel like you're holding back a little. Is there anything you're lying to each other about? Anything at all?
No, nothing comes to mind.
No, nothing. Really?
Fine, there is one thing. I'm voting for Spencer Pratt. Sorry, I just can't take 4 more years of Karen Bass. Hell, I can't take 4 more seconds of Karen Bass. The homelessness, the needles, the crime. I'm sorry, honey.
You're sorry? Don't be. I'm voting for Spencer Pratt, too.
What? I thought you were all vote blue no matter who. No kings. Riding for Biden.
I thought so, too. But it gets to a point when there are more needles at the park than people.
Or when you go to CVS, and the allergy medicine is locked up, and the deodorant is locked up, and the freaking shampoo is locked up.
Or when family doesn't want to visit anymore because the streets are covered in and they got mugged last time. It's terrible. Seems like we've made a breakthrough. Any other secrets? Nope.
None. How about you? Who are you voting for?
I don't think it's appropriate for me to share.
And the therapist is scrawling on her notepad, vote Spencer Pratt, vote Spencer Pratt. Yeah, so, I mean, there's a real breakthrough. I think those two are going to be okay. Our next guest believes America is hooked on therapy, and it's left us more anxious and divided. How do I know this? Because that's the title of his book, Therapy Nation, How America Got Hooked on Therapy and Why It's Left Us More Anxious and Divided. The author of that book and our guest is Jonathan Alpert, who's a psychotherapist practicing in New York and Washington. Jonathan, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Dan, thanks for having me. And there's a brilliant ad by Spencer Pratt, I have to admit.
It's good. I mean, I still like, I'm not MAGA or anything. That one is still my favorite, but that's pretty good too. I mean, that speaks to sort of a certain demographic and mentality. There's so many aspects to this, but one I wanted you to recount, particularly in these times, is how identitarianism has further poisoned a profession that's already dominated by the left. And you had an anecdote in a piece I read that you penned for the New York Post.
Yeah, I mean, identity politics has made its way into my profession, and we have therapists who refuse to treat someone if they voted for Trump. They demonize you if you voted for Trump. In my book, Therapy Nation, I tell the story about a patient who was seeing me, but he was also seeing a couples therapist with his significant other. And he had posted a picture of Trump, the iconic picture of Trump at Butler. And his partner didn't like that. It became the topic in their couples counseling. And the couples counseling pathologized him and made him seem like he was doing something wrong and said he has to do something to make up for this and suggested he go volunteer for Kamala Harris. And this person wasn't political at all, but the therapist made it very political.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm a Trump
example.
I'm a Trump supporter, and so obviously you're suffering from a mental illness, and what you should do is go volunteer for Kamala Harris. That's great. That's yeah. I don't think you're hearing me. Yeah. No, but the other one is this the story you tell that I don't think it was your patient. I think it was a patient of a colleague of yours, but it was a woman who had a near miss with an 18-wheeler on the highway. And
yeah.
So tell that one.
Yeah, so I tell the story in my book about someone who went to a therapist because she had a fear of driving. She was afraid to drive on the highway because she had an accident, and a very legit reason to see a therapist. I mean, this is something that's treatable. And she went to the therapist, and this therapist made it all about race and gender and a whole host of things, totally unrelated to why she went, for anxiety about driving. And the patient, she was offended, and she was frankly baffled as to why this therapist started talking about race and gender, and I don't even know what else she was talking about. It's just craziness. But this does represent what's going on in my field. I saw an article yesterday where a therapist, actually the headline was "Psychotherapist Says Trump Will Kill More People Than Hitler." And for a second, I was like, whoa, is that me? Because I often see that my name in the headline, psychotherapist. But this represents what's going on. We have licensed therapists talking about how Trump is Hitler, Trump is dangerous. And in this case, Trump is going to kill more people than Hitler. It's just baffling. And I do think that TDS has mutated, and it's taking on new forms and shapes and affecting more people these days.
But it's beyond Trump, though, too, the identitarianism, because everything is predicated, with sort of the how do you feel question is, how do you feel as a white woman behind the wheel in a patriarchal society? I'm coming here to get over my fear of driving, and we're talking about the patriarchy. We're talking about my race and my sex, which is not really relevant to my particular my particular challenge and stuff. They just sort of shoehorn it into everything. These leftist therapists that are essentially acting like so many leftist teachers do, as political operatives.
Yeah, and you have to go back to grad school where these so-called therapists are trained. They're trained to look at people through the model of you're either oppressed or you're the oppressor. And this identity politics or identity therapy is right there from the start. And in my book, I tell the story about two stories that represent this. One was of a black man, successful executive, who went to a therapist for stress related to work, and the previous therapist made it all about his race. Well, as a black man, you must feel this way. Mm-hmm. And the patient was offended, and he felt disrespected, and he left. And then the other story that I told was similar. It was about a gay man who, again, was dealing with some stress, anxiety. And the therapist said, well, as a gay person, you must feel this, or society must treat you this way, and had absolutely nothing to do with the issue at hand. And he ended up leaving that therapist as well. So you can see how therapists are sorting people into these boxes. They're looking at their race or their sexual preference before they look at the actual person and what's going on psychologically.
Yeah, imagine.
It's a huge problem in my profession. I mean, therapists aren't being trained anymore. Instead, grad programs are turning out social justice warriors.
Yeah, and imagine people that are, looking for help don't like to be reduced to their, of course, they don't like to be just reduced to their race or their sex. I mean, it's immaterial. That's how most commonsensical people operate and would react to that. I mean, you have to go to a university to become, it's like one of the old saw that, only an academic could believe something so silly. You have to go to a university to become the therapist like you're describing. Something else, though, too, another aspect of the cultural impact, and you raised the specter of Tiger Woods, which actually is a good one. I've been wanting to address this, and you're the perfect person to do it with. So Tiger, since his DUI a couple months ago, has been in Zurich at some center, some specialized facility where he is undergoing intensive psychological rehabilitation. What?
Well, whether it's Zurich or sunny California, I'm not sure how effective these intensive treatment programs are. My understanding is it's a whole lot of yoga, meditation, relaxation. And in some respects, that might be good. It gets the person away from some of the stress and the elements that may be contributing to their drug problem, but I'm not so sure these are the most effective treatments out there for addiction.
No, right, but the point of characterizing it, it's not like I'm going to get away from it and I'm just going to do yoga and I'm just going to try to get in better shape, and I just want to, I just need some alone time or whatever. And just taking this is a way to say, like, he didn't exhibit bad behavior. He has a psychological issue, or you made a bad call. And actually, when in that DUI stop, he made a couple of bad calls. One was the DUI and dumping his car over and being on whatever prescription drugs he was on that impaired his ability to drive. The other was then trying to Bigfoot the cops by, talking to President Trump on the phone and telling the cop that he was doing so. So, I mean, your boorish behavior, your bad judgment is the issue here. It's not a condition that you're experiencing.
Well, there's a complete lack of accountability, and I'm afraid that my profession has created this. We've created this accommodation culture, blaming everyone else instead of taking responsibility. And we see this play out lately a lot with this grievance culture, and I like to point to Luigi Mangione as the perfect example of this. He's probably the poster boy for grievance culture. He had gripes with the health insurance industry, and he felt he could just take matters into his own hands and gun down the CEO. So that's the perfect example of grievance culture and lack of responsibility. And, we do have celebrities who will blame everyone but themselves for their addictions and problems in life. My profession is supporting that, and they're creating these irresponsible people.
Everything, right? Everything's a trauma. Everything's traumatic, right? Yeah. I mean, this goes back to microaggressions and safe spaces on college campuses, which date back 30, 40 years, actually. Is it still? We talked about this pre-COVID, the anxiety issue, the teen angst, particularly young people, depression, and so forth, and of course that was exacerbated during the shutdowns, but. We were talking about pharma as part of this conversation and over-medicating young people, in particular Adderall and these Schedule II narcotics that we're pumping into pre-adolescents to modify their behavior because they have this condition or trauma or mental health issue. All these characterizations as the predicate to dope up kids and young people, and I wonder if you think that's still an issue.
Yeah, I do think it's a huge issue, and again, my profession is responsible for this because they're pathologizing ordinary, everyday experiences. If you have a bad day or two, or even a bad week or two or three, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're depressed. That means that you're having a bad day, and that's how we grow and build character and persevere and get better. That doesn't mean we run to the doctor and get a prescription for Adderall or an antidepressant. Similarly, if we're late for appointments or we forget something, that doesn't necessarily mean that we have ADHD. Yet we have therapists who are quick to label their patients with this, and they go to a doctor, they get a prescription, and they're living the life as someone with ADHD, and they label themselves as such. So it's still very much a big problem in our society, and I would say probably worse than it was around COVID.
Jonathan Alpert is a psychotherapist practicing in New York and D.C. His new book, pick it up, Therapy Nation by Jonathan Alpert. Jonathan, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Dan, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
And he joined us on, take care. And he joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Platform safety is so important in your industrial facility. You need to keep personnel safe and meet OSHA requirements.